Daniel had never lived on a street this quiet. After losing both his parents in a car accident, he'd been shipped from Port Harcourt to Lagos to live with his Auntie Ngozi, who offered him a room, 3 square meals, and a place to focus on his studies. But Daniel didn't care about school. Not right now. Not with his head still full of blurred memories, sirens, and unspoken things. Amusement Street was oddly peaceful, like the kind of place you forget exists. Vendors sold akara in the morning, children played football in the evening, and everyone greeted with mechanical smiles. But there was something off. Daniel felt it on the first day. Not fear exactly. More like something was being carefully hidden. Then he noticed it. The last house on the right. Number 11. It looked like the others, but somehow felt different. Its white walls were grayed with age, and wild vines climbed the rusted gate like claws. No one went near it. No visitors. No kids playing catch nearby. The air around it was still. Too still. 3 days later, Daniel was sitting on the veranda, sketchbook in hand, when something or someone caught his eye. She stood just beyond the gate. A girl. She couldn't have been older than he was, 17, maybe? She wore a white dress that fluttered without breeze, her long hair falling like a curtain over her shoulders. Her skin had a faint glow in the fading sunlight. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She just stared at him, head tilted, expression unreadable. Daniel blinked. Once. Twice. When he looked again, she was gone. He shot up, heart pounding. The gate hadn't moved. There was no sound, no trace, just the heavy silence of dusk crawling in. That night over dinner, he asked his aunt about the house. Number 11, she said, not looking up. No one lives there. But I saw someone. A girl. Her spoon clattered against her plate. Don't talk about that house. Finish your food. Daniel didn't sleep well. That image of the girl kept flashing in his mind, those eyes that seemed to know more than they should. The next day, he wandered toward Mama Beezy's wheelbarrow stall. She sold mangoes and stories. When she caught him glancing down the street again, she clicked her tongue. You're looking at number 11, eh? She asked. Daniel nodded. There was a girl there yesterday. I think. Mama Beezy lowered her voice. Pretty girl. Wears white. Doesn't speak. His stomach turned. Yes, she sighed. You've seen her, then. Aid Aura. She died in that house 5 years ago. Fire. Some say she was alone. Others say she never left. Daniel stared down the street again. Number 11 stared back. Daniel told himself it was a coincidence the first time. That maybe it was just the sun playing tricks on his eyes, or some neighbor's daughter sneaking into the wrong yard. But the second time, he wasn't so sure. And by the third sighting, he'd stopped pretending. She was always there. By the rusted gate of number 11, on the cracked upstairs balcony, or beneath the mango tree whose roots tore through the concrete like scars. The girl in white. Always silent. Always still. Watching. Her presence unsettled him, yet it pulled him in like a whisper he couldn't ignore. There was something strangely graceful about the way she appeared, never walking, never arriving. Just there. One blink, she was present. The next, she was gone, like smoke caught in sunlight. Daniel began to time his afternoons by her sightings. He'd pretend to sketch, but his pencil would hover over paper as he waited, eyes fixed down the street. And she never disappointed. Some days she stood in the window, pale hands pressed against the dusty glass. Other days, she leaned against the tree, head tilted as if listening to something only she could hear. And yet, no one else ever seemed to notice her. One evening, as she drifted past Mrs. Lawal, the old tailor who lived 3 houses down, Daniel held his breath. But the woman didn't even flinch, didn't look up. It was like the girl didn't exist in anyone else's world but his. That night, Daniel dreamt of her. She stood barefoot in a hallway of smoke, white dress glowing like moonlight. Her eyes met his not with fear, but with knowing. She didn't speak. She never did. But her smile curved softly, like a secret being kept just for him. Then the hallway collapsed into black mist, and she was gone. He woke up gasping, his sheets damp with sweat. The time on his phone read 3:11 a.m. His door was ajar. In school, he could barely concentrate. During lunch, he found himself sketching her from memory. Every detail came too easily, the way her hair curled at the ends, the hollow curve of her eyes, the crease of her lips. His classmates noticed. Someone teased him about drawing his imaginary babe. He didn't laugh. He stopped going to his usual hangouts. He spent evenings at the window instead, heart ticking like a clock, eyes glued to the empty yard of number 11. Sometimes she came. Sometimes she didn't. But when she did, Daniel felt something unspoken pass between them. Something only they understood. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story. But each time she appeared, his pulse jumped. Each time she disappeared, it left a strange ache in his chest. And he began to wonder, if she was dead, why did it feel like she was the only one truly alive? Daniel wasn't looking for anything when he found the journal. He'd simply been pacing near the edge of number 11's yard, watching the mango leaves rustle despite the stillness of the air. The street was quiet, too quiet, and the silence made every crunch of gravel under his sandals feel like a scream. He bent near the hedge, pretending to tie his shoelace, but his fingers brushed something odd. Fabric? No. Paper. Half buried beneath dry soil and roots was a cloth-wrapped bundle. His heart thudded. He glanced around. Not a soul in sight. With one final look toward the ghostly windows of the house, he pried it out. It was a small, leather-bound journal, cracked with age and stained with soot. He didn't open it until later that evening. Alone in his room, with the fan creaking above and the shadows leaning long across the walls, Daniel turned the first page. My name is Adora, and I am so tired of being invisible. He blinked, reading the line again. Adora. His skin prickled. That name. It had to be her. The girl in white. He read on, page after page of aching loneliness poured out in slanted cursive, entries that detailed Adora's quiet life within number 11. Her parents were always away. She hated the silence of the house. She feared the darkness in the hallway and heard things at night, soft knocks, breathing that wasn't hers, shadows that moved without light. One entry made Daniel's hand tremble. There's something wrong with the house. It watches me when I sleep. The final pages were nearly illegible, smudged and warped as if by water or tears. But one sentence burned itself into Daniel's brain. They went out again tonight. Said they'd be back before midnight. But the smell of smoke is strong. I'm scared. Something isn't right. And that was it. The rest of the pages were empty. Daniel sat frozen for a long while, the journal heavy in his lap. Adora had died in a fire. Alone. Trapped. And yet, he had seen her. Just yesterday. By the gate. Staring at him with eyes that didn't seem like they belonged to the dead. She wasn't just a memory. She was still here. The night grew darker, the air thick with tension. Daniel placed the journal on his desk and tried to sleep. But sleep didn't come easy. His ears picked up every creak in the house, every shift of wind against the window. At around 2:30 a.m., he heard footsteps, soft, deliberate, moving slowly across his room floor. He froze. He hadn't moved. He hadn't opened the door. The footsteps stopped beside his bed. He turned his head slowly, but saw nothing. Just the air, cold and still. Then, without warning, a thin tendril of smoke curled up from the base of the wardrobe. Daniel shot up. There was no fire, no smell of burning wood. Yet the smoke continued, dancing in the air like fingers reaching for him. He grabbed the journal, clutching it like a shield. The smoke stilled, then faded. He didn't sleep after that. Not a second. Just sat wide-eyed in the dark, journal pressed to his chest, heart racing like it wanted out of his body. Something had changed. Whatever Aurora had written, whatever pain remained in those pages, it wasn't finished. And now it had found him. The night Daniel broke the rule, the moon hung low like an open eye, and the street lamp outside number 11 flickered like it couldn't decide if it wanted to stay alive or die trying. The silence on Amusin Street was louder than ever. No chirping crickets, no distant laughter, just that crackling hum of faulty electricity. And there she was, Aurora, standing beneath the lamplight like she belonged there. The white dress clung to her like mist, her feet barely touching the ground. Her eyes were locked on him, deep, sad, and bottomless. She didn't move. Neither did he. But something inside Daniel shifted. He had seen her for weeks, dreamt of her, read her words. And now his feet betrayed him, stepping closer before he could think twice. He crossed the road slowly, heart thudding in his ears. With each step, the air grew colder. By the time he reached her, he could see the shimmer of tears on her cheeks. He whispered, Aurora. Her head tilted slightly. Then, finally, she spoke. I told you not to follow, she said. Her voice was faint, like wind through hollow bones. It echoed inside his skull, too soft for the world, but loud enough to drown everything else. You can hear me, Daniel breathed. Aurora nodded slowly. I shouldn't be here. Daniel's chest ached. Why are you? She looked past him, over his shoulder, as though something lingered just out of sight. I didn't leave. I tried, but I'm still here. Do you remember what happened? She shook her head. Only pieces. Fire. Screams. Then, silence. And cold. Daniel swallowed. I want to help you. Her eyes snapped back to his. You can't. And you shouldn't. Why? She stepped back. Just one step, but it made the wind howl softly between them. Because now that you've spoken to me, she said, her voice cracking like glass, they'll know. They? Daniel whispered. Aurora's hands trembled. The ones who come after the living speak to the dead. They followed me once. Now they'll follow you. Daniel felt the chill grip his spine. His breath hung visibly in the air. The light above them flickered violently, casting shadows that danced like figures. What do they want? He asked. Her answer was almost a whisper. To finish what the fire couldn't. A sudden gust blew past, and in the blink of an eye, Aurora vanished. No footsteps, no sound, just gone. The street fell into an unnatural stillness. The lamp went out, and Daniel realized he wasn't alone anymore. Daniel couldn't shake her voice. It echoed in his head like a warning etched into stone. They'll follow you. But it wasn't just fear that kept him up now, it was the question that wouldn't let go. Why was she still here? He went back to the journal. Read every line again, hunted through the margins for hidden meaning. Aurora had been afraid, lonely, yes, but afraid of something real. Something alive. That's when he remembered what Mama Beezy said. She was alone when it happened, but not by choice. He started asking around, gently, carefully. Most neighbors wouldn't talk. They shook their heads, waved their hands, changed the subject. But he caught one old man, Mal Lam Isa, sipping palm wine behind his kiosk. The man leaned in and whispered Aurora's parents. They fought with someone. The day before the fire. I heard shouting. Who? Daniel asked. Ajala, the man said, voice sharp as a bottle's edge. He lived next door. Still does. Mr. Ajala, the hunched man with the limp and the thick-rimmed glasses, who never greeted anyone. His curtains never opened. His gate always locked. Daniel hesitated for days, but the curiosity clawed at him. Finally, just before dusk, he walked up to Ajala's gate and knocked. After a long pause, the man opened it an inch, one sharp eye peering through. What? I wanted to ask about number 11, Daniel said, steadying his voice. About Aurora. Ajala's eye narrowed. You're the boy who's been talking to shadows. Daniel flinched. I just want the truth. The gate creaked wider. Ajala stepped out. Up close, his face looked like cracked leather, and his mouth twisted into a sneer. Truth is dangerous, he said, especially when the dead try to tell it. Did you have something to do with the fire? Ajala's voice turned gravelly. They think because it was quiet, it was clean. But some things burn louder in silence. Daniel's throat dried. She didn't deserve to die. Ajala leaned close. His breath smelled of ashes. Dead things should stay dead, he hissed. You want to join them? He slammed the gate shut. Daniel backed away, blood pounding in his ears. That night, his room felt hotter than usual. He opened the windows, turned on the fan. Nothing helped. He sat on his bed, pulled out his sketchbook to draw, and then it happened. The pages caught fire. Just like that. No match, no spark, flames danced across the paper like they'd been waiting. He flung it to the ground, stomping it out, heart hammering in terror. The air reeked of charred wood, and the image he'd just drawn, Adora's face, was gone, burned to black. Smoke curled toward the ceiling in slow, deliberate spirals. Daniel stood frozen, throat tight, eyes wide. Whatever secret he had touched, it had touched him back. Daniel stood in front of number 11, heart pounding like a drum in his chest, his fingers trembling around the flickering candle he held. The journal was tucked under his arm, its burnt edges whispering warnings with every breeze. The house looked worse at night, its walls sunken with age, windows like hollow eyes, the front door shut like a sealed mouth guarding secrets too terrible to speak. He swallowed hard. Adora, he called out, voice cracking. Please, talk to me. At first, only silence answered. Then came the cold. It swept through the yard like a breath held too long. And then, she appeared. Adora. She stepped from the shadows behind the mango tree, barefoot, glowing faintly in the candlelight. But this time, something was different. Her face was wet. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and her shoulders trembled as she looked at him. You shouldn't have come back, she whispered. Daniel took a step forward, his voice low. I had to. I need to understand. I need to help you. She shook her head desperately. It's too late. You opened something. What did I open? She stared at him, eyes filled with sorrow. He knows now. Before Daniel could ask who, the front door behind her creaked slowly open. The sound was long, groaning, like the house itself was waking up. Beyond it, the hallway was pitch black. A darkness that wasn't just absence of light, it felt alive. Then came the voice. Deep, gravelly, unnatural. Daniel. It came from within. Daniel's body froze, but his feet moved, one step, then another, drawn like a string was pulling him. Adora reached out a hand. Don't go in, please. But he couldn't stop. He stepped over the threshold. The door slammed shut behind him. The candle went out. Everything went dark. To be continued. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when part 2 drops. You won't want to miss what happens next.